Psychologists are seeing more and more adult children from narcissistic families. And what we're seeing is almost a pattern we could replicate time and time again. Because if you were raised in a narcissistic family, you know something was off. You know something's wrong because you feel hollow. You feel like you're not good enough. You're usually excellent at many of the things you do, but yet you feel like you need someone, but you're not sure how to make that work. For the most part, everyone I see who has grown up in a narcissistic family feels empty. And what we have to understand is when you're dating, there's a good chance you're going to date someone who had at least one narcissistic parent. And the reason that's going to happen is because they look for relationships, and many times they're not successful at relationships because they can't identify what exactly it is that is missing in them. And they excel because they were told by their parents they're never good enough. They usually are exceptional in many areas, but the intimacy and the vulnerability and the ability to be real, what it takes to have a real relationship, they have no mentoring for. So many times I'll be asking the therapist, me in my case, what can I do to be a better partner? They have absolutely no idea that what they need to do is change a lot of things, go back into incredible pain that occurred for them growing up because they have no awareness, or maybe very little awareness, of the etiology of what was actually going on with the parents who parented or mentored for them. I'm going to go through 11 or 10 or 11 things that I specifically see with narcissistic families that raise grown children now who are dating. And I'm going to do this because I think there's a possibility that you all may be dating one, or you all may be one of those people that came from a narcissistic person, a parent, and you're trying to figure out what is wrong with you. And the truth is, there's probably nothing wrong with you other than that you got mentored very poorly about how to have a relationship, emotional maturity, a real relationship, instead of a fake one that you show other people and then you go home and there's nothing, there's an emptiness. So here are the listings, the characteristics. The first one, there's an image. The narcissistic family is just, every narcissistic family does this. They're fake. They basically show a facade when they're in social or public situations. They look like they enjoy their children. They look close, they look fantastic. But when they leave that social situation or where other people are looking, they each go into their own corners. So there's extreme emptiness. Secondly, there's a lot of secrets. Everybody in the family has a secret, and they tell secrets on each other. Other people within their family are the plot of their secrets. It's sick, but they do it in a way that it's done because they don't want to hurt feelings. Everything is indirect, but it's actually manipulative. They don't have feelings. The parents, any narcissist, the only feelings they have are how they're going to look good getting through something. Thirdly, there's a lot of negative messages to the kids. They tell the kids things like, you're not good enough, you'll never make it, you don't measure up. They'll compare the kids to them and they'll always be superior. It's sick. Lack of a parental hierarchy. So in a normal family, and probably the way most of you grew up, mom and dad were at the top, the kids were underneath. And basically, well, not underneath, but the kids were separate. There was a boundary there. They decided what happened. Not so in narcissistic families. Narcissistic families, the parents expect the kids to take care of them. They want to be parented by the kids, and they want the best parents, the most entitled parents. There's a lack of emotional ability to be with the child or understand the child. The child can be miserable and the parent can't tune into that. They can't see that. They can't They can't appreciate that and try to support them. In fact, they'll do just the opposite. They'll manipulate them at times like that. Nobody in this family can directly communicate. Nobody can go up and say, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad. That's not how it works. You are not vulnerable in a family like this. If you said something like that, you would be attacked and verbally abused. And that's that. I mean, it's just how they work. They would gaslight you. They would make you feel terrible about yourself. There's very messy boundaries. Nothing is clear. There's like, you can tell mom secrets about dad or daughter. It doesn't matter. There's absolutely enmeshment on one hand when you go out in society, and then when you come home, there's nothing. There's abandonment and all kinds of issues because there's no clear boundaries that this is what the kids do, this is what the parents do. It's a free-for-all. If there's one parent that's a narcissist, and I have that with several of my clients now, one parent the other parent does something we call orbiting. That parent is so sick of taking care of the narcissist parent's needs, because they're usually still married, that they have nothing left over for the kids. So in a way, they're actually more detached from the children because they're tired and they're weary and they're trying to make it work with the narcissistic other parent. And so the kid really has no one. They have a narcissistic parent or no one. And what would you decide? If you were small, you would go with the narcissistic parent. And that pattern develops when you're small, and it continues as you get bigger. The siblings are not encouraged to be close. In a normal family, usually you want your brother and sisters to get along. The parent wants to encourage the kids to talk things out, to be direct, to get along, to like each other, to work together. That is not true in a narcissistic family. They pit each other against each other. They're competitive. And in fact, it behooves the narcissistic parent if they can get the kids to fight a lot in between so there's no love, because then they get more. They get more secrets. They get more information. They get more ammunition to manipulate if the kids don't like each other. Think about that and what that would do with siblings being close as they got older and the parents got older. Feelings are denied and repressed. There is no talk about feelings. If you were to tell your parents that you're anxious or depressed in a narcissistic family, you would get something very cruel back at you, which is why no one feels safe or vulnerable to be honest with what they're feeling. And lastly, there's always dysfunction, and it's either going to be overt or covert. If you see abuse, you know it's on the outside. If it's physical abuse, if it's emotional abuse, it's on the inside. But one thing you do know is there is always dysfunction, always some sort of abuse. These families are riddled with it. They're set up that way. If you are an adult child from a narcissistic parent and you ask your therapist, can you give me some ways I can just be a better partner next time? Maybe you broke up in this relationship you're in, which is very common. It's hard to find someone you can get along with long term, because being raised in this kind of family is all off center and it doesn't give you the tools you need. The best thing you can do is go back and observe your childhood and start journaling about that, so that when you go to the therapist, you can say, I've done some homework on my family of origin, and this is what I've noticed. If you can remember things they said, tapes, how you felt, different texts they send you, that's going to help your therapist help you. Because otherwise, you're just another person telling a therapist that you want to be a better partner. And the therapist has nothing to go on, because the way you do that always is more self-awareness and more thinking of the other person's place. If you were raised in a narcissistic family, that never happened. So right off the bat, you're going to be at a loss for how to make that work. I hope this video gives you insights. And please, if you think you're with someone narcissistic, do not stop to analyze it, to see if you can work things out on your own, make an appointment with a therapist, because you're going to need it, and it's going to help the two of you maybe salvage what relationship you have.